Hi and welcome back to English Lessons with Inlingua Vancouver. I'm Tash and today we're going to look at the active and passive voices. So, have you heard those terms before? Active voice and passive voice? We use them to describe what kind of sentence we are using. The active voice focuses on the person doing the action, but the passive voice focuses on the person or thing receiving the action. And it changes the way that our writing is perceived. Most editors think the passive voice is boring, but sometimes we do need to use it. So first let's look at the structure of the active and passive voice. Passive voice, the lightsaber was broken. So here we have our verb on the end, broken, and you'll notice that we've got this word was in front of it. And we're using the past participle. If we want this sentence to be in the active voice, we focus on the person. I broke the lightsaber. The lightsaber was broken. By who? We don't know. This sentence is focusing on what happened and not who did it. Active voice focuses on the person or thing performing the action. I broke the lightsaber. And you'll notice that this is just in normal past tense. Okay? Past participle with was and past simple. So let's have a look at some more examples. Passive voice, cigarette taxes will be raised. This is the future. Okay? Instead of was, we're using will be for the future, but we're still using the past participle of the verb. Cigarette taxes will be raised. Passive voice. Raised by who? Who is going to raise cigarette taxes? Is it me? No, nothing to do with me. Active voice. Focus on the person or thing performing the action. Congress will raise taxes on cigarettes. Congress will raise taxes. Focus is on Congress, the person or thing performing the action to raise the taxes. Passive voice. My nose was punched by you. Does that sound weird? It does, it sounds really weird, especially because we know who did it. I'm talking to them, by you. My nose was punched. Remember we've got was and past participle. My nose was punched by you. Nobody would ever say that. That's a really silly way to make a sentence. This sentence needs to be in the active voice. You punched me in the nose. Okay, you, the person, followed by the action, followed by the receiving object or person. You punched me in the nose. This sentence is much more dynamic, much more dramatic, much more interesting. My nose was punched by you. My nose was punched by you still sounds stupid. You punched me in the nose. This is a good sentence. Passive voice can be really boring, takes away a lot of the interesting fact. Here is a bit of a Star Wars example. The base was attacked and some rebels were killed. Then the attack was repelled. Rey was taken and hope was lost. Sounds a little bit like a news report, doesn't it? If you think about the way that people talk about news, they often remove the active voice, use the passive voice to make it sound a little bit less dramatic. Okay. Here, I've rewritten it so that we can see it in active voice. Stormtroopers attacked the rebel base. Then the Resistance arrived. Kylo Ren took Rey, and Finn lost hope. So here I am using the people who did these actions to perform active voice, which makes this sentence way more interesting, more dramatic, and there's even more information in it because we know who was doing what. But in some cases, we do need to use the passive voice, even if it is a little bit boring. We use the passive voice if we have no idea who did the action, okay, or if we don't care at all, if it just doesn't matter. So, for example, school was cancelled. Who by? The government, my own school maybe, possibly the head teacher, the local towns, there's no transit, so they've cancelled school because there are no buses. Doesn't really matter who cancelled school. It's excellent because school was cancelled. We don't know and we don't care. Who cancelled it? Doesn't matter. School was cancelled. Passive voice, was, and the past participle. Sometimes we also use the passive voice if we want to be polite or a little bit kinder. Okay? So for example, if you have applied to university and they send you a rejection, they're not going to say, "We have rejected you," because that sounds a little bit mean. They're going to say, "Your application was rejected." And they mean your application was rejected by us. But without saying who did it, it's a little bit kinder. It takes out some of the sting. Sometimes we use the passive voice if we want to emphasize the thing rather than the person. Okay? For example, the trophy will be given to the winner. And here we're trying to make trophy sound really exciting. So we are focusing on the trophy, not the winner, not the person who gets the trophy, but the trophy is very cool. It will be given to the winner, whoever that is. Doesn't matter as much. So we're trying to focus on the thing in that sentence. And we also sometimes use the passive voice when we are writing impersonally, separate from our own opinion, or scientifically. And this one is important for studying for university. Whenever you are writing a formal paper, you're going to use the passive voice because you don't want to write from your own opinion. You want to write from a practical, researched point of view that looks at everything equally. When you use the passive voice, it makes you sound impartial, like your opinion is in the middle and you are looking at everything. So here's an example of a scientifically written passive voice sentence. The mice were separated into 2 groups by me. I was doing an experiment and I separated them into 2 groups. But this sounds way more professional, way more scientific. The mice were separated. So you'll notice were instead of was. Why are we using were? Because mice is a plural, so we have to use the appropriate form of the verb. So I hope this has helped you a little bit with your understanding of when and why to use the passive or active voice, and I hope that you can make your sentences more interesting accordingly. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.